gonna start with so if you need to download virtual machine, there are steps in lap one to do that. Make sure you extract, right? Like after you download, make sure you go into your downloads folder, right click the zip folder, and then show more options. Make sure we use 7-zip to extract, not Windows extraction tool, because it's not gonna work. Um, it's zip with 7-zip. So show more options, 7-zip, and extract files. That's how you extract. Once you extract it, you can double click the extracted folder, open up its subfolder, and find your blue file and double click it. It will automatically load and launch in VirtualBox. Um, in this lab, we're not adding additional RAM because we're simply doing some basic scan. But in the future, we're going to have to add it to the playlist first, configure, and then launch or start it. Okay? So once you have your VM started, you're just going to log in using KALI and KALI for password. So before you start any installation in Linux, any version, any release of Linux, you need to run an update. Debian base, so sudo apt-get update will work for Ubuntu, but you can also do sudo apt update. So we can copy and paste the command or type it in Kali. It allows you to do that. Okay. So here I have my desktop, like what we've seen last week. I'm going to open up my terminal, and we're going to use the terminal mostly for our tools. Sorry, let me edit. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so the font is a little bigger to see. So we're going to do a sudo apt-get or apt update. Same thing. Like I said before, if you're using an older version of Kali virtual machine, you should upgrade, right? Instead of update, and that takes a little longer. So once the update is pushed, we're gonna find the system IP address. We are our own target, right? You can use this to practice. So you need to find your IP address. And in Linux, you simply type IP space address. In Windows, you would do ipconfig, and that's going to give you the IP address. You can also find it in settings of the system. So I am here. I already did my updates for step 17, right? Do you need any help or have any questions? Flag me down. Let me know. Okay, because I'll just keep on going. All right. So once I did my updates, it's gonna give me the pop-up again, right? So I'm here and I'm gonna do the IP address command. So to find the IP address, you simply do an IP address, and you are going to get some IP address, right? It's gonna give you a bunch. So we are going to look for the purple IP address under the Ethernet. Your virtual machine is going to see itself connecting Ethernet, even if you run it on a laptop, right? So it's always going to refer to the connection as an Ethernet, and you would see that it's going to say Ethernet 0, ETH0. That's your adapter, okay? The one above it is local. LO is for local. That's a loopback. It's always going to be seeing itself with that number. So your loopback address is going to come back to that system. So the address we want to write down is the 10.0.2.15. Okay, so we can say 10.0.2.15. And that is in purple under the Ethernet 0. And it tells you that it is up. The state is connecting, so it's up, right? Okay, so that's what we cared about. And then if you scroll down like me, I might have other like broadcast address that I don't need. I just need this one, the 10.0.2.15. So by default, Kali Virtual Machine is going to get that IP address. If you run it here at home, it shows that, right? Okay. Any question regarding finding IP? Okay, so I hope you remember the command. We're going to use it a lot. So this is your IP. Then we are gonna we're gonna install an app called Damn Vulnerable Web App. This allows you to turn on a server on the virtual machine that is vulnerable. We're gonna run the web app with no security on it. So your virtual machine is gonna become a web server and it's gonna host the application through this package. They already coded it for you. So you don't have to do any HTML SQL coding. It's already there. So that's why we install it. It's convenient. So I'm going to install DVWA, and it's a basic installation. Now, if you can't install, it's because if you didn't push update, software will not install well on your Linux system. So if you're getting an error, it's typically because you didn't push update. So go back, redo the updates, and then do the installation. So it tells me that it is at the newest version here. I previously installed it last week. But if you do the installation, it might show the status. So I told my class last night, don't just do command because it's a command that you have to do for lab. Look at your screen. If it tells you an error, find out why it's an error, right? That what makes you a good IT or security person is you learn how to troubleshoot it. If you can't do it, call me over. I'll help you, right? But let's look at the step and see why we're doing it. That's the whole point in learning these things, right? So install your Damn Vulnerable Web App. So once you install it, the next step in the process is to activate it, to start it. So you can't start it without the installation. So we are going to do a start command, and it's going to be hyphenated after your package or your app information. So I am now at step 22. Okay, I'm just repeating the steps that I did last week, so we are clear. Now, once you start it, this is going to prompt you, right? It wants privilege. So we are going to authenticate. So type in KALI and press enter, and it's going to open up your web application, okay, via the browser. It's going to take a second to do that. Okay. So that means that I am starting an HTTP service. Understand? And how do I know? Well, on the browser, it says HTTP, and you notice that the loopback address goes here because we are self-hosting, right? It is local to our system, and because we are using this port. So anytime that you want to refer to a port number, it's going to follow the IP address with the colon. You see 42001, right? That's the port number that is used for this web application service. And it is hosted at our local machine, which is the 127.0.0.2. So when you're hosting a web, let's say that I go with GoDaddy, and so they give me a public IP, and I still have to have a port in order to run services like my web application here, right? But in this case, we have no security. It's HTTP, not HTTPS. And HTTP uses port 80, okay? So keep in mind, and so it's going to make sense when you scan. So we have this service turned on. We're hosting the web application. We don't have any security. We're going to take a screenshot of this. Now, some of you, I saw, like some of my students, they just use their phone to take a picture. If that's you comfortable with that, that's fine. You can use Snip and then drag it, click new, and then drag the picture and paste it into the lab. Okay. So take a screenshot of your web application that is loaded here. Okay. And how do I use snip? I just call up snip and then click new, and then I drag, right? It automatically copy when you do that, and then you just do Control V or right click and paste into your document and save your document periodically if you downloaded it. Okay, so once I have this running, I don't want to close it. Don't click X. I can minimize it. I'm going to come back to my terminal here, or you can open another terminal window. A way that you can do that is you can press Control Alt T. That's a shortcut way to also open another terminal. In Linux, you can open as many terminals as you want. Okay. What we're going to do is we want to make sure that we have the Apache 2 service. It should already activated with the DVWA, but we just want to make sure that we have a web service. So you are going to start your web service. You're hosting your web application. So we're going to activate Apache 2, which comes with DVWA when you install it, right? So in Linux, you use Apache 2 right now for hosting web. In Windows, you use IIS. We're going to do that later. Okay. All right. Now, once I'm done, I'm going to use my scanning tool. The tool I'm using is Nmap. This is an active scanner, right? So if I don't know how to use it, I'm going to start with the help option, right? I don't need to install this application. Why? Because Kali Linux have that already installed. If you use Ubuntu or another Linux version, you will likely have to do sudo apt install nmap. Okay? So I'm going to run the help option, which gives me hints on how I can use the command, like nmap dash open to look at open ports, right? It's a dash dash, not just a single dash. So these are switches or options that you can use with the nmap command, you see? So you can use nmap dash O capital A and then whatever your base name is to get, Now the lowercase v is verbosity. So verbosity really means if something is verbose, it's just wordy, right? That's the term for wordy. So if you want more details, then you want verbosity, okay? If you want less detail, then don't include the V, right? Sometimes we care about that for reporting or statuses of our system, okay? So you're gonna look at the option and it asks you, let me move this up, let me move my little texting out of the way. Um, which option can be used to enable OS detection? So look at the option that it gives you, right? For operating system, you can scroll down, right? And look at all your options to see if you can find, I think it's capital O. We talked about that last time, right? Or maybe it's up here. Okay. Yeah. So enable OS detection. So if I do nmap space dash capital O, I'm going to get OS. But if I do other options, sometimes it's also going to give me that as well. Okay. So put your answer there. And then I want to see if I want to get version number, right? So how do I get a version number with the command? Okay. Sorry, I need to expand because it's too small. Yeah. Sudo apt-get update. You cannot just run regular update. Okay, online. Yeah, maybe right? Apt-get sometimes kind of gives you a super always apt-get. That means download, right? And then that's it closes. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. So we talked about the version number, or I'm sorry, the operating system, and then you can go and look for the option for the version number, right? So you can scroll down, read the description for each of the option, and it's going to tell you which option is going to give you the version number. Okay. Like capital V, print version number. Why do we care about that? Well, sometimes you have server that's running like web, Apache 2. We want to know which version of Apache 2 it's running because maybe the version has vulnerability. Okay, any other questions regarding the questions for 25? All right, now we're going to do aggressive scan, right? Or all, right? So the capital A is going to give you everything that the app is designed to do. You just got to plug in your target IP here. So if I do this in real life, right? If I'm targeting the system, number one, I need to make sure I have connection to it either via the internet, the network, the wireless network, whatever it is, right? I have to have connection to scan, of course. And then I put in the public IP. You know that a lot of the server system, it's gonna block it. They have application firewall to block your Nmap. But so if we test this, we are scanning ourselves, right? So I'm going to do an Nmap dash capital A, and then I'm going to type in my target IP, which is myself, right? At home, if you run this on your Linux system, right? See if you can scan like, I don't know, another computer that's in your house, okay? But check the IP address for each system first. And it really depends on how long this is going to be. It's going to really depends on like how far you are from the target system. Is there any kind of block, right? So it tells you, and I talked to my student last night about these scripts, right? So it's going to launch these scripts to interrogate that target, and it's going to tell you the versions, right? The OS details, how many system in between. Thank you. If the host is up or down and how many ports are open or closed, right? It's like basically, you are sending your drone to that house and you're looking to see if they have doors and windows that are open, how many people live there, right? What do they look like, right? It's kind of like that, right? You are looking into, so it tells you that port 80 is open. That's because you have the vulnerable web app, right? And you have Apache started, and it's on a Linux Debian base, and you have the server header for HTTP, and it is Apache. This is part of the banner. We're gonna do this more next week, okay? And then another banner information, and the content of that page, it says it works, right? So, okay. Take a screenshot, how many ports open, close, which ports open, how many addresses were scanned. Look at the report that you see. Right? I always screenshot things because I can always go back and look. And it tells you one IP address was scanned, right? Because we only have one target. You can do a range with Nmap too. Okay, next we are going to do a verbosity with an A. So we want to get a little bit more. So just like the last command, you can also up arrow key to repeat the last, and then move your arrow to the left by pressing the left arrow, and then add in, because I want to add in the lowercase v before the A. So -v space dash capital A, and then your target IP. Always put in this parameter so that way it can execute the function properly. And you notice that in this one, it actually tells you what kind of scripts that it's running, right? Compared to the last one, I see NSE. So NSE represents the scripts that are designed to launch for specific requests, right? So script post scanning, it initialize some scripts. So it's still gonna give you the same information because you have the same target, but it's gonna tell you more on like the status for each of the processes that's happening in the scan. Okay, so how many scripts are loaded for the scan? How many ports were scanned? Which ports are closed? So the closed ports they're not vulnerable. The open ports are the vulnerable ones. And how many addresses were scanned? Okay. Do you have any question for me regarding this step? We saw some of this last time, but I want to repeat so you can see. Okay, no question. So now, earlier we talked about SYN attack, right? SYN for synchronization. This is used for handshake like HTTP or TCP. So HTTP is part of TCP. We are going to perform a SYN scan. And we're going to use the double S, the lowercase s and the capital S. This is going to give you a quick, stealthy scan. So S stands for stealth, right? You want to be quiet, not so visible. And so, but we want to look into the synchronization traffic of or synchronization of process of the connectivity. So our target, let's see if they have there's a synchronization related activity, right? So we want to scan that. So you are gonna do this one. You need to do sudo nmap. You can't just run. So some of the option you need higher privilege, right? So sometimes you can just run an nmap command. Sometimes you need to have a sudo in the front, or you need to be a root user. Okay. So you can copy and paste the command, or you can type it in. Right. I'm gonna do a sudo nmap lowercase s, capital S, and then 10.0.2.15. And it is a brief result that it's going to give you, right? We are going to look for service or protocol that is related to the open ports. Now, because it's for synchronization, HTTP does have synchronization. Otherwise, it doesn't load the content of the page that you see on the browser. So that means that I do see this open port and it is HTTP. So if you have other services that have synchronization under TCP, you're going to see that listed. And it's usually correlated with the port. So for 27, we're going to take a screenshot. Now let's switch the target up. We don't want to just scan ourselves. That's kind of easy, right? So Nmap people, they created this page or this part of the domain to allow you to test your tool, right? So if you create a tool, you gotta allow your user to use it to test to see that it works, right? So we're gonna use the same option, but we're gonna address the target. Now, the response that you're gonna get, how fast or slow, it depends, like I said, right? How responsive the target is to you, if there's security measure, how far you are from the target, and so on. Okay. So we're gonna do an SS scan, but we're gonna change up our target to be scanme.nmap.org. Okay. So we don't scan everybody, right? Don't go and scan a bunch of different websites. Scan the ones that allow you to scan. And Nmap posted on their website that they allow you to scan them, because if you scan using Nmap, like Microsoft.com, they are likely going to see you and block you, but they are going to see who's scanning them. Okay. We want to be ethical. We want to be permitted to scan. So it tells you these are the open doors and windows to their mansion. Okay. 22, SSH, secure shell. We typically use secure shell to remotely connect to our server or system. Port 80, HTTP, just like what we have. And then you have nping echo, port 9929. So sometimes you have common port, sometimes you have uncommon port, and then another port elite. So these are the open ports that are related to the service that they use. Okay. And you have 996 filter TCP port that didn't respond. That means that they might be closed or open. You don't know, right? So it could be that they have a configuration that doesn't allow your system to receive the response on that. Okay. Okay, so it talks about the filter port. You can put down the answer, which ports are open. The listed ports here are open. The state, you see that? Now we are going to do a little bit different. We are going to use the ST option, right? Um, so that way, so if you don't get a good result from your last scan, this is another option that you should use, right? ST, sometimes if you don't have the privilege to do a SYN scan, right? Like you're a regular user, you can also try to use the SC. But we're still gonna use the sudo command. So instead of the SS, I'm gonna change the capital S to the T. So I up arrow key and use my left arrow to move to the area I want to change. And then you can press enter. So some options, like I said, it's gonna give you the same thing because it's the same target, right? But so that means that we have consistent information results that we're getting, and that's what you want. Okay, so list the open ports. Take a screenshot for 29. Do you have any question or need help? Okay, doing good. Now we are gonna do verbosity and we're gonna do SY. So SY, we're gonna look at streaming, right? So SCTP is an architecture that encompasses TCP and UDP, user datagram protocol and transmission control protocol. This typically, we have two protocols so that way we don't have a congestion or a bottleneck in the network. So it allows you to have congestion avoidance, right? Prevent flooding or resistant to flooding. And in the case that, if we have a lot of traffic. So what we can do, have a good day. We're gonna use verbosity and we're gonna use the SY, right? And the same target that we previously done. So we're gonna change this up, right? Move your cursor. So up arrow key and move your cursor to the left by using the left arrow. We're gonna do verbosity, which is lowercase v, space dash, lowercase s, and capital Y. And then your target remains scanme.nmap.org. Okay. So it tells you the scan that it did. It did a ping scan that took 1831 seconds. Or less than that, I'm sorry, 0.2 seconds elapsed. And then it did the DNS resolution check, right? And then here's the SCTP. So the scan launched right after that, right? It tells you that this is their actual IP address, right? You might have seen that also in other type of scan, 52 ports. But wait, earlier we only saw these open, right? So they have some ports that we cannot see. And then there's some latency, which is typical, right? So they don't have any other addresses that are related. So in the case if you're looking at Google is going to have a range of IP addresses that they use for their DNS and their web servers. So it didn't really attempt that because there's no other IP, but it only target the registered IP for that domain. Okay. All right. So how many ports are scanned? 52, right? How many packets were sent? Let me see if it tells you that anywhere. Yeah, it tells you the raw packets on the bottom. So those, each packet can be utilized for request, right? And then you are going to do the next part, which is only for UDP. So UDP doesn't confirm, it just drop off the package and runs off, right? It's like, my UPS driver, he just drops it on the front. I don't need to sign for the package. He goes away. The TCP, I have to sign when I receive my package. So there's confirmation. So we're going to do an SU, only looking at the UDP traffic for that website or that domain. So we're going to change the Y to a capital U. Keep the target the same and verbosity is the same. Thank you, Mr. You're welcome. Have a good evening. All right. So now we only see the UDP, which is port 123, right? And that's open and that uses for NTP. So you can drill down to specific doors or windows to that mansion or port that's open or closed to that domain, right? Okay. And it tells you again how many packets were sent. So different type of traffic uses different script. Like whatever that your command and your option is, it launch different scripts. And those scripts is gonna have like different type of requests and different number of requests, right? To find information for you. So with that, what we did was we did the UDP scan, right? After we did the SY, the synchronization scan. And now we are going to look for versions of software using SV. So instead of SU, we can change that to a capital V. And so verbosity tells you like which port it's scanning, discover open ports, so it tells you the open ports. We knew about SSH, right? We knew about nping echo, but it also listed for TCP wrap, that would be this port number. And then it gives you the version. So in this one, it actually tells you the service version. So SSH, they're using that version. Apache, the specific version, and it tells you that's running on Ubuntu. A lot of these web servers run on Linux virtual machine. Did you know? That saves a lot of money. So if I use cloud, I can run it as an instance, as a VM on my cloud systems, right? Which is a remote system that I rent. And then also, the Linux versions. So if you see Apache, you already know that's Linux. Okay. So list the versions discovered by the open ports. Now what we're going to do is we are going to fingerprint. So when you do fingerprint, you just drill down on the version for your software, your OS. So we're going to do a sudo nmap, but instead of the SO I mean the SV, we're gonna change that to a capital O, like Opal or October. Okay? Not 0. And same target. Have a good one. Thank you. Okay. So with that, I would see it's still gonna give me the same thing, right? But it also gives me more details in specific software information. So I told you earlier that it is a virtual machine. I confirm it. Here, it's a virtual machine. You use VirtualBox, so you know, right? They also give you like some NAT information. There's QEMU, user mode. So it's definitely a virtual machine that they're hosting that domain from. So if you read the report that it gives you, right? It tells you there's no exact match in the OS. It can sometimes it's gonna give you like close enough information. So we have to use other tool to confirm. It uses a script to predict the sequence for the traffic, and here's the level. Um, Let me see what else you can make a note of. Yeah, so it's running a script to guess, and it's like, oh, it's a virtual machine. 98% that is running on VirtualBox, right? 94% that is a QEMU VM. So it's a little bit less, but definitely it's a virtual machine. Okay. Okay, so write down the information that you have there. Take a screenshot. So that wraps up the Nmap portion. Do you have any questions for me regarding Nmap? It's going to be a tool that you're going to regularly use. So make sure we learn how to use it well. Okay, next we're going to talk about Nicto. Nicto is cool because it is a way that we can check web servers vulnerability, web app vulnerability. It is the IT tool for web assessment, right? Nicto comes equipped with Kali Linux, but if you're using Ubuntu or other version of Linux, you have to install it, just like what we talked about before, right? So we are going to start with the help option. So Nikto, hi, bye. When you see it change to blue, that means that it's already exists on as an app on that system. So it sees the command in Kali Linux. They do that so you can quickly identify. And then space help. So if you don't know where to start, what option to use, you're going to use the help option. And just like Nmap, it's going to tell you here are some of the general options that you can use with this command, right? And so now we are going to use some of the options. So you can take a look at those, right? Like if you want to use it to assess SQL injection, etc. So you can do a lot of different options depending on the goal of your footprinting. So Nicto-H, and we're going to put in our IP address 10.0.2.15. Okay. Not the best display of information some of these tools have, but you're going to have to read it. Okay. It tells you the issues, the vulnerability with the web server that you're currently running on your virtual machine, right? It tells you here that there is a header that is not set that can cause some problem, and it gives you the link to that particular vulnerability related information, and then you can go down, you can see. So if your web server is very vulnerable, you're going to get a bunch of information. So the less you want on here is the better, right? So if you modify something, you can go back and scan it again to see if it's better, if it's improved, and if you fix the problem. So it tells you everything that you need to know about the issues with your web server. Like it doesn't have anti-clickjacking X-frame. Um, so you can go back to your web developer and say, hey, this is missing and this is the issue, right? And it tells you the service, which is Apache. So 5 items that I have that is outstanding, or that those are the things that I need to prioritize, right? And I ask you the question, how many items are reported on the remote host? Um, so this is not the same all the way through. Like I said, depends on the design of the web application or the web server. Is it secure? Is not secure? So I don't want to have the update here, so you can press no, right? So if you want, you can, and basically it's gonna ask you for your email, and they can give you the relevant information and updates. So next we are gonna use PWNet, right? So here PONet, PONet. So what we're gonna do is we are gonna put in the port number following by the option. Okay. So network address translation is a way that we can have the server bind addresses when it forward the information or send the information back and forth. So what we're going to do is we are going to put in this particular tool. Again, this has already been incorporated with Kali Linux -S. And so port 80 is HTTP. Another port that's often used for HTTP is 8080. Okay. So you can try 80 or 8080, 8080. And so basically what it's doing is when I do this, I'm just going to wait for UDP activity. If you leave it like this, it's going to be like that forever, until you have traffic to your domain, like somebody visiting that particular domain, then you're going to have some activity here. Otherwise, it's just going to stay like this. So it's like ear on the wall, wait for a conversation to start. Nothing happening at that port. So nothing. But if you have other people visiting the domain using that port, then it's going to list, or actually, shouldn't say people, services that's activated for that port with using UDP. It's going to say that, right? So take a screenshot for step 37. Then what we're going to do next is you can cancel this. So if you click on your terminal and press Control and C, Control C is to cancel. Okay? That terminates the process. Otherwise, it's just going to hang that process there. Okay? Or you can also open up another terminal. Like I mentioned before, we are going to come back to Burp Suite, but I want you to show you real quick what Burp Suite looked like. Okay. This runs Java. It is a Java app. So if your Java is not up to date, it will not open. Have a good day. Okay. So it's going to open up the app. Okay. You're going to click OK to accept to go forward. It says that you have to use Java. Let me see if it's even gonna launch. Okay, yeah, it does. It just takes a second because it's running in the virtual machine. So sometimes you have to update your Java. It tells you which version. So you're gonna click accept, and then go forward. Now, Burp Suite, if you use this version, it's very limited. It's gonna be like this. There are other. So this is Community Edition. So it's okay to practice on. You can get a trial version for the professional one, and I recommend learning how to use it. But what I'm gonna simply show you like the easiest way to use BERT, the community version. So here, you open up the UI after you call that command. So it just open up the app, right? When you type in Burp Suite, and then you accept the license, and you would proceed. So this particular version only gives you the temporary project storage. It doesn't give you like the newer project option. So, you have to sign up for an account to use additional option through their web app or the download. So you're going to proceed by clicking next. Okay. And then at this point, if you have configuration file, you can link the files here, but we don't. So we're brand new, right? You're just going to click start burp. So I'm here at 44. What I'm gonna do next is we will not run Nictel using Burp Suite as a proxy using a command. So a proxy, you can think of it as a way that we can regulate some kind of connectivity. Proxy can be used as police. It can also be used as um, a middleman. It can be used so many different ways, right? Sometimes we need to set up a reverse proxy. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to use Nictel application. We're going to have the target, and we are going to use the proxy. Simply, we're going to host it through the port 8080 on the local host, which is the 127.0.0.1. So basically, ourselves is the host, right? For this server, it's a different server than what you previously had, and we're going to host it on port 8080, okay, as a proxy, okay? So keep it going, then open up your terminal, and then you can copy and paste that command in. It should say we now should not. Okay. So what we're gonna do is when you run this, you are gonna create a proxy with that localhost IP, right? You saw with Nictel. So and it's gonna assess this port with that server, with our localhost server. Now we're gonna use, so we can minimize this and come back to the app, which is Burp Suite. You're gonna click on the proxy tab. And if you want to really use the proxy as an intercept point, right? You can turn that on. Okay. So you can verify that the interception is off. It's typically off by default. You can open the browser, click open browser, and then what you can do is you can record all the activity for HTTP traffic through Burp Suite. So you can set it up where it's kind of like this. If you want to use a proxy, it's like having that stop in between your system and the domain. So in the case that if I want to see everything that you've done, I can intercept your traffic, screen it, do something with that, like from an attacker standpoint, I can use it to attack, right? So if you go to Burp Suite website, right, Swigger is the company, Port Swigger. They are really good at giving tutorials. So there are lots of tutorial via YouTube or on their website or GitHub. So you can also use their tutorial to learn. Okay. So I keep the interception off. And then in here, I'm gonna go ahead and let me see if they change this. Yeah. So HTTP history is a little tab, right? So I'm gonna click the off to turn it on, and then I'm gonna put the HTTP history, and it shows that there's a bunch of get for HTTP because, if you open up your website, right, that's a get, and we're not doing any set because we're not inputting any data. Okay. So on the proxy tab, on the lower tab, you're on the intercept, you can turn it on by clicking the off button. And then the HTTP history, you can see the activity. Okay. And take a screenshot, right? Do you have any file extension that's discovered in this? So you can look at the file extension. There's like PHP that is part of the web app, the web pages on that app. Um, there's a bunch of them on the right column. Okay, so don't shut down. We're going to move to lab 2. So answer the question. Make sure we answer the ending question because I do look for that when I grade, right? What are some of the new information and tool have you learned when you complete this? So you learn Nmap if that's new to you, Burp Suite if that's new to you, right? Burp Suite, we learn how to set up proxy, which is a middle point where we can intercept traffic and look at the traffic for information. Summarize the techniques for footprinting for this lab, right? What did you learn? So for footprinting, you have to set up your server or find a target server, right? You can use Nmap to be able to obtain that is active footprinting. Earlier on, you had passive footprinting using Google Dorking technique. And then how do you apply the concept for your career? And you can think about if you aspire to be a pen tester, if you want to be an analyst, you use this, right, to be able to assess your security vulnerability and threats and then be able to remove the vulnerability. Okay, that kind of wrap up 1. 2 is very short if you have your VM already running, so I'm going to run through that real quick. Any question? Okay, so now you know how to do a proxy with Burp Suite, right? So in the future, if you want to use proxy, you simply put in your host IP and the port for that host here, okay? And of course, that host have to be connected and the service for it has to be on. Since we already have web services on with our system, and the IP address, it's just a local IP, which is your 127, the loopback. Okay, so I'll close Burp for now. And though if you want to generate traffic, you can open up Firefox. Like this, you can go 127.0 instead of the 42001, you can do 8080, like generate traffic to it, right? It just says that it is a Burp Suite proxy server, basically. Okay. And then you can come back to the app and look at the traffic information. Take care. Okay. Any question? For 1. Okay, so don't shut down your machine. Look at lab 2. It's very quick. I'm going to show you how you can run Wireshark, right? I caught, so if you watch the video for lab 2 from prior year, I removed the Wireshark option because I showed you that in the lecture. But we will do some activity with it later, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do part B and a little bit of C. It's not too long, okay? So you're gonna use Kali Linux, the same machine that you have open now from lab 1, okay? And if you want, you can update it again. So I'm gonna do that because the lab has that option, that steps on number 10. So I'm gonna close my burp. And open up your terminal by clicking the black square. Then we're gonna run an update. Take care, thank you. Okay, so it should be like a second or two because we just updated earlier, but you don't have to. If you want to be sure, you can always update. Also, always start your system with an update. And then what we're gonna do is we are going to allow the Kali user, because we log on as a Kali user. I have Kale, sorry. Sometimes it's late and I mistype things. Okay, Kali user to run Wireshark, because not everybody can run Wireshark, right? You don't want your regular user to scan your network. So we're gonna run the package to reconfigure the Wireshark for the Kali user. And then you're just gonna press enter to click on it and press tab and then press OK, right? So should the non-super user be able to capture packet? It's already selecting yes, so just press enter. Okay. So again, when you run that file, it takes you to the configuration of the app. So in Linux, all the configuration is stored on a config file. And instead of modifying the file in its content, you're doing this, right? So when you run that command, it takes you to the configuration file. Press tab to select OK. Press enter. And when you get here, it asks you, should non-super user like Kali able to capture the package? So packets, so press enter to select yes, because it's already selected for you. And then there you go. That's pretty easy. So it changes the permission for that app with the user that you use to log in, which is Kali, Kali. Okay. So once that's done, you're going to find the IP address again. If you don't remember, right? IP space address. And we are going to use the 10.0.2.15. Okay. So I'll type it here. And that's under the Ethernet 0 interface. Okay. So the adapter that we always default to is F0. I'll show you how you can activate the wireless one when we do wireless attack. But by default, it's always going to be the Ethernet adapter on the virtual machine. Okay. So Wireshark is already pre-installed with Kali Linux. You can go home and install it on your regular computer. You have to install npcap to put your adapter into a certain mode, like listen mode, to capture. So in the process, you're going to see some of that if you install Wireshark. Okay. All right, so I'm going to call up the app now for the next step. And it's going to look similar to the Windows one, right? once in a while you see that they change the interface, the user interface. So, but it's going to be really close to what you see previously, right? So it's going to list the adapter and we're going to select Ethernet 0. That's the default one that we have. Okay. So if you have that, you can click it and then click the fin, like what we've seen in the Windows version, for it to go. So here, I select my interface and then I click the blue fin at the top to start my scan. Okay. Now you're like, why is it empty? There's nothing, because there's nothing going on in your virtual machine. You have to generate traffic to have traffic, right? It's kind of like you're looking at the street and no one drives or walk on it. So what you're gonna do is you are gonna open a website, right? You can use Wireshark.org, or you can, use your own preferred website. And so I'm gonna do that, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and open up my Firefox browser. You can go to Wireshark.org. Okay, so as you do that, the app is also going to keep a record of it, right? You see now you're going to see TCP, right? This is my system right now, right? It's contacting that server. So we are capturing the traffic that's happening on our system. So you are going to pause it, okay? You click the red button to stop. And you can save this as a file, which is what we'll be doing later. But now we're going to filter. So in the filter where it says apply filter here, right? This little bar, you see the little blue ribbon underneath the fin, you're going to put in the filter. So we want to filter out only our system traffic by using ip.addr $, and then the IP address. Okay. So you can copy this if you don't want to type it. And then paste it onto the filter bar. If it's green, then it's good. If it's red, then you type something wrong. Okay. Now we're only going to filter out what's coming to us and what we're sending. Source and destination has our IP address. You see? So this is a way that you can narrow down your specific target traffic. If you have a certain server, you can just put that server IP in here and it's going to drill it down for you. Okay? If you don't know, you can also use tools, and they have pre-templated hints on how you can use the filter on the app itself. So take a screenshot. Now what we can do is we can look at only DNS statistic for our traffic, right? So on here, you're going to click statistic, and then you can select the type of traffic that you want. Okay, so DNS is on the left. Now you can also get general information or only query, like ask and response, right? So we can do query and response or general. So for the lab, what we're going to do is we are going to only use the general information, so that way you can get everything, right? So it's going to give you like any kind of traffic that's related to DNS. Okay, remember I talked about record earlier, the A and the quadruple A, that shows that here. So the number of total packets, I have 88, and you and I might be different because it depends on what kind of app that we are opening, right? Like websites that we're visiting, what other services that we're running, etc. So it might be close or could be the same, but sometimes most likely it's different, and also the time that I scan. Um, so it tells you the total packets and then the service statistics. So on that, it's already giving you some of the general analysis, right? So service stats right here. You have request and response. It keeps a record of like the time. There's no unsolicited response and no zero retransmission. So everything went through correctly. Okay. There's no extra reply for unasked things. That's what it's saying. Okay. And then you also see the average and the maximum payload, and we talk about data exists in payload, right? So if you have packet stuffing, you have to compare payload. So you got to check your traffic, and the best thing to do is look at statistic tab or menu option to look at your payload size. Okay. So your average is here, your min and your max, and you can also sort it to the way that you want, right? Here's your payload size, right? My average is 75.26, and then my min is 29, and my max, the biggest, is 222. In bytes. Okay. Okay. So now we can close it. Let's say we want to save it and come back to it later. You can just click the save button and give it a name, right? In order to open it, you have to run Wireshark and open the file. Okay. Typically, a lot of the systems will allow you to default to that particular app, but if just in case, open the app and then open the file. Okay, so in here, you can close your statistic, go file, save as, right? You can put it in the default home user account. So this is kind of like documents in Windows. It's all going to default to the user account profile. You can also put it in documents. Let's say we do that, right? And then give it a name. I have you put scan 1. So I have like 21 minutes. I want to run through this real quick. It should cover it and then I want to help you kind of understand the question a little bit. So another tool that you can use for active and passive reconnaissance is NetDiscover. It's a cool tool. It is a way that we can inspect address resolution traffic. Take care. So typically it's going to correlate. So in ARP is used to correlate a physical address to an IP address, right? And so this tool, we would simply call it because it's already been installed with Kali Linux. Otherwise, you can just go and find the installation information on their document. So I'm going to go ahead and close this real quick. Sorry. Open terminal. We're going to do NetDiscover -H. Oops. So I have options for my NetDiscover, right? Just like how we would be able to use different options for the other commands, this one is the same. So it gives you a summary of the type of options that you can use with the actual command. And then the question is, what kind of results can we use with the dash I, right? So go down the list. You're going to look for a dash I. Dash I is going to give you your network device. So if I do net discover dash I, and then you would have to fill in like, the a specific IP address, then it's going to be targeting that particular device, right? So if you are assessing a device, you would use a dash I. And then you're going to look for the R option, the P, and the L. Okay. So go down and look at the lowercase r, which is for range. So you can have a group of systems that you want to scan, or if you want to use the dash P. So lowercase p is you want to put it in a passive mode. So net discover allows you to do active and passive, right? So if you want passive where it's quiet, less direct, then we want to have the lowercase p. Now, if you want the L, this is the lowercase L, not one or I, right? So the L, if you look at the lowercase L, which is right above the P, that will be a file. So if you want to scan, and if you have a file that has like ranges of IP addresses or system information, system addresses, you can do a dash L for file. And then just put the file name like system.txt. Okay, so now we are going to do a range, right? So we are going to, you can copy this. You want to scan a device in this network. Okay. Let's say that you don't know its specific address. You want to say, you kind of know that it belongs to this network. It's kind of like saying, I want to know where you live. I kind of know that you live near Moreno Valley Mall, for example, right? That's like what we're doing here. Okay. Now, you might not get a lot of information, but it's saying that, oh, there's a .2, .3. We don't know what that is, right? Based on the MAC address. Because sometimes you get that sometimes because MAC address is registered to the vendor, like what you saw with Dell and Cisco in the traffic I showed you earlier on Wireshark, right? So you get some information. It depends on how many devices are connected. So you might not have a lot there. So take a screenshot. What kind of information is displayed? So if you interpret this, the IP address of the devices that are connecting to that part of the network, right? And the MAC addresses that it has. Okay. Based on the MAC address, the application doesn't know what kind of device that is. You can look this up. I'll show you how to do this later. Or the name of those devices, right? We can cancel the process by pressing Control C. That's the same thing with Windows as Linux. And then we're going to use the Option P. So Control C to cancel. You got to click on the terminal. Then we are going to use the Option P. Always, we want to say interface, right? Interface, Ethernet. And then we're going to find out more about, we're going to run a passive scan. So if you don't have any activity, you're not going to have output. So if you don't have output like myself, you can put 0, right? Sometimes it does take a little bit of time to accumulate information. So it says 0 captured ARP packets from 0 host, so I don't have any kind of host activity there. But in a regular network, you should be able to see the hosts that are using um, address resolution protocol. So yeah, so sometimes it populates. It's a little slow. Okay, so you can take a screenshot, answer the question. You have 1 entry, 100 entry, 1 entry, 2 entry. Put that there. Okay. The way we shut down is we do shut down now. That counts, that puts the 0 seconds in with the shutdown, because Linux, it counts 60 seconds before it shuts down. So if you just type shutdown, it's gonna be 60 seconds after, right? So if you do shutdown now, it's 0 seconds, so it's immediate. So up on this lab, what did you learn about network scanning in Recon? Right, we learned how to use Wireshark to be able to look at different type of traffic from our system into our system, right? You learn how to use statistic to identify or follow specific type of traffic and look at the statistic value for that traffic that was captured. You also learn how to use Net Discover to be able to look at specifically ARP or address resolution protocol traffic, which relates to IP address and MAC of the system and what communication that's being used for those system, the service. And how can you apply this in the industry? You can do this for analysis purposes, for security, networking, pen testing, so many ways. All right. Any question? So I'm going to shut down my machine. I'll stick around for help if you need help. And I'll be here until about 5-ish. Take care. Thank you. Until the other professor comes in for his class, then I will leave, but so you can take your time.